All right, joining me is Yehudah Petscher, who's an NFT strategist and Web3 analyst for CryptoSlam. He's also host of the Chain Reactor and Inside NFTs podcast, both of which you should definitely check out. And I have to mention that he's community manager for Ozzy Osbourne's Crypto Bats, which is an NFT collection. Yehudah, it is always great to connect, and welcome to Crypto Prime for the first time.
Yeah, it's great to chat with you again. A few months since the last time we spoke, and everything changes just that quickly. So yeah, there's a lot to catch up on. The market's different. The people in the space are different. It's all different. It's all different now. But appreciate you having me here.
Well, we are going to get into all of that, but I have to start by asking you, what are Crypto Bats?
Oh boy. Oh, they're a lot of fun. It's an NFT collection from, I think, maybe the best period of NFTs. It was late winter, that was late winter of 2022. It was like the peak of NFT euphoria, and you probably remember those times where celebrities were starting to come to the NFT space. And at that time, no bigger celebrity than Ozzy Osbourne finding his way into crypto and releasing an NFT collection, which is the Crypto Bats. Man, it's been a treat to work with them, with somebody like Ozzy. They're pure collectibles, which I think is maybe the best part of NFTs, and something maybe the NFT space right now is resetting itself back to, appreciating these assets for what they really are. A lot of them are just JPEGs and collectibles, and its community is rallying behind that. So CryptoBat's a collection from Ozzy Osbourne, and they're just a blast.
You just gave me the absolute perfect segue here or intro, because we are going to get into NFTs along with Memecoins. And my hope is that you can help convey to the TradFi crowd how these two areas are viewed by people actually in the trenches, because you do cover this stuff day in and day out. You're in the trenches yourself. And I thought you could bring a unique perspective. Before we do that, however, before we get too far down that path, what does CryptoSlam do for people unfamiliar?
Right. Yeah. We're an NFT data aggregator. You could say we're the OGs of that. We've been around since 2018. So since before NFTs really exploded into this, mainstream phenomenon, we were there telling the story of NFTs through data at the very beginning, telling it through that euphoric part of the NFT market, the rise of Bored Apes, the fall and then rise of Pudgy Penguins to their incredible position today, and everything in between. And then telling that story still through the numbers, through the heart of that deep, dark bear market that we just emerged from, really. And now hopefully this resurgence of NFTs. Today, though, CryptoSlam Reborn, it's not just an NFT company. We're really an AI data company now. And so I think people have really started hearing, and if they haven't, I'll tell you, there's a change coming over crypto. It is AI. There is a movement of these AI agents. These agents need to be smart. They need data. We are here to power these AI agents with this blockchain data. So not just NFT data now, it's everything on chain. I think 25 plus blockchains and counting. And that's where we are going here in the future. So just really, really fun stuff with CryptoSlam, always evolving as the space does. And that's CryptoSlam.
And when you talk about telling the story of NFTs and crypto, obviously one of the ways that you're doing that, as I mentioned at the top, is through your podcast, one of which I know I've been on. Tell us a little bit about those.
Right. So at this point, I almost lose track of how many shows. There's a lot. I do a lot of content. I stream a lot because there are so many different things happening. But yeah, my core show is called Chain Reactor, and I do that over on CryptoSlam every day. It's Monday through Friday. I do that at 9 a.m. Look, it's you've been there, you've seen it. It's incredibly casual. It's tailored towards, honestly, I guess, both people who are also in the trenches and 24/7 crypto, NFTs, AI now. But also, my goal when I started that was for really to help people who are very new to crypto or curious about it to ease in, to learn it. It's complicated. The terminology is complicated. It's foreign. It's terms we've never heard of before. The concepts of crypto and NFTs, like community, again, it's strange. It's a little abstract. You do need people to kind of walk you through that, and in a safe way. It's people have a perception of what the crypto and NFT space is, and part of that involves a lot of scams, and there is a lot of that. But there's a really fantastic side of it that's very tech-driven, very community-driven, and is actually at the cutting edge of so many things. And that's the type of thing I try to kind of shepherd people towards. And so my show, I hope, helps people find that kind of thing. Also now kicking off a new AI show, and that's going to kick off tomorrow. I think we're calling it the Swarm, but if people are interested in AI, it's probably worth a listen.
I'm really glad you brought up this concept of communities behind NFTs because Yehuda, I think for many people on the outside looking in, and I would say especially on the TradFi side, they see NFTs as just digital pictures, right? It's the old joke. I can just right click the image, save it to my desktop. I own the same thing. So what value is this actually providing? And I know that's an extremely tired narrative, and we can talk about proof of ownership and those sorts of things in terms of the technology behind NFTs. But I thought it would be good to have you just explain further this community aspect of NFTs, because I do feel like that really gets overlooked.
Yeah, I'll also say here too, people's intuition or that question about like not understanding it. It's just a JPEG, right? They're not wrong. And actually, if people are wondering why things fell as much as they did during the bear market, well, that's a big part of why. Some of these things truly are just JPEGs. Yes, on chain, some of them, but we'll come back to that because for me, the most special part of this, maybe movement, but the NFT community right now, it is the community. It's the lifeblood of what's been going on here over the past few years. It's a big part of the value of NFTs. It is the community and who's in it and who are the connections in it. And the thing is, communities aren't new. As somebody who's lived online my whole adult life, I mean, I'm 44. I've lived online since I was a teen. And whether that's back in the day on news groups or AOL chat rooms or in IRC or using ICQ Messenger or what, doesn't matter what it is. I always lived in communities that continued through gaming and gaming clans. And this is just an evolution of that. This is people hanging out in Discords, whatever topic you formed a community around back then, today it's crypto. And so a lot of these NFT communities and meme coins as well, but they're communities that are centered around this crypto movement and people, again, sharing their insights, sharing their connections. And ultimately, I think what makes a lot of these NFTs valuable, it is those connections. It is the alpha that you're sharing with each other. And in theory, the better your alpha, the better your community, the more the NFT is worth because other people want to join that club. But community, again, it's the single most important thing to, let's say, the value of an NFT collection. And that's how it's been for years. I think it'll continue to be that way.
You mentioned earlier this point on people not necessarily being wrong, that it's just a JPEG and you can right click it. Elaborate on that.
It's when we went through the extreme prices that we saw in that last bull market. Boy, it was so long ago. I'm trying to remember how high some of these got, but some of these pictures or NFTs, we're talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's really easy to get confused about why. I was at that place at one point. Why? And again, as people start to like think through it, they're like, but it's just a it's just a picture, And again, I can right click save. Well, first off, you can't, but it is mostly just a picture. A lot of them, at least. And again, we got to the bear market, and people started really thinking about that. Like, well, okay, I have this thing that was worth $100,000, 200. Right now, it's worth 50,000. That's still a lot, but like, why is somebody going to buy that? Like, what is it really? And a lot of these things still were just a JPEG, just a picture, and so that is the reality of a lot of these things. That said, there are so many products that are getting tokenized that are NFTs that represent so many other things. So you really have to take every single NFT collection or individual tokenized asset, and you have to evaluate what it actually is to find out what it's actually worth. But make no mistake, a lot of it is just JPEGs.
So is a good comparison, like, do you view NFTs as sort of digital baseball cards, except you have benefits such as being able to avoid, counterfeits and knowing the chain of custody? And I don't want to be too crude here, but you talked about the community aspect behind NFTs. Obviously, somebody who's interested in baseball cards, there's a community there, right? If you have no interest in baseball cards, you're not going to be part of that community. And so a baseball card's not really going to have value to you. So is that a fair comparison? Just again, from somebody in the TradFi world, are NFTs like digital baseball cards?
Some of them are, for sure. And, if that's something that people can use to make, NFTs make sense for them to click, it's there. And that's great that works. Yeah, there's sports collectibles that are on chain. Those are some of the first NFTs I ever bought, were packs of Topps, NFT cards. And those are also just JPEGs that happen to be, have a receipt that's on chain, or each NFT has like a stamp on chain, but it is ultimately a JPEG that's stamped on chain. I look at them as the future of collectibles, though. I do, as somebody who traded cards growing up in comics, and all of those kind of, physical things. This is an evolution of that. And I didn't know that I would actually like it, right? I like the holding the comic book, and I like the smell, and I like the same with cards. And I thought I would miss that going away. And my goodness, I don't know what happened, but I don't. I actually prefer at this point not having to keep things in storage. And I prefer getting to scroll my wallet and just look through all these collectibles. And again, at their core, I do think most of them are collectibles. Yeah.
So how did you first get into NFTs, by the way?
Oh boy. Let me think back. Well, there was a very specific moment where I saw Mark Cuban on TV, and this had to be like late 2020, and he was being asked about NFTs, and I had only just started hearing that term. I really wasn't familiar, and I think it was NBA Top Shot specifically. He started talking about, but he kind of quickly brushed it off, and he's like, it's very speculative. Like he was kind of doing like, don't worry about this, or it's I wouldn't bother. But I just picked up something from that. I'm like, there's something there that he just doesn't. I don't know. He just doesn't want to be responsible for something. And that was it. I mean, I spoke with my brother immediately after. I'm like, whatever this is, we were already in crypto. I'm like, whatever this is in NFTs, we need to figure it out. Spidey senses are going off from that conversation. That took me right to NBA Top Shot. Again, the sports collectibles made a ton of sense. I understood a rare, LeBron James card. Well, you have a digital version of it that is stamped on the blockchain. It's preserved. There's no denying that this is the original 1/1 or just maybe 50 editions, whatever it is. It made sense. It clicked instantly. So into collecting NBA Top Shot. And then from there, anything and everything. I love the PFP craze, right? Like the Bored Apes and all. I love them. Art is another thing that I got into very early on. It just made sense, right? Having digital artists who can actually make a living now, because your art now is on chain, or at least the ownership record of it and the genesis of the piece is now at least stamped on chain. We know everything about it. We know everyone who's touched it. Again, we know when it was made. We know who the artist was. All these things started opening up for me. And again, to today, I don't know if we've seen a ton of innovation. I'm still collecting the same things, but I guess that speaks to how enjoyable they are. I'm still collecting art. I'm still collecting the PFPs, the trading cards. It's a blast.
Well, a fun fact for you, I may have mentioned this to you in the past, but I still own a collection of NBA Top Shots.
Mm.
And here's another fun fact for you. I actually minted my own NFT, which was me shooting a three-pointer, of course, making it, swishing it.
Nice.
And minted that on a Rarible. So that's still out there. I don't think anybody ever bought it. But, I like to learn by doing. And so just going through that process was really helpful for me, which I'd love to have you just explain the basic process of buying an NFT. And again, I know this sounds really basic, but for somebody who has never done that before, can you just explain the basic steps? What does that look like? What do you have to do?
Sure. Well, it's okay. There's ways of doing it that is very basic, which is going on an NFT marketplace. And usually you're talking about buying things on secondary if you're doing that. It's right going to Magic Eden, it's going to OpenSea, and it's buying some of these NFTs that you've heard about already. Again, like the Bored Apes, the Pudgies, whatever, and they're still very expensive. And so, of course, you can do that. And what's involved is maybe funding a wallet with some crypto, maybe. And I say that because a lot of these marketplaces now accept credit cards. But it's as simple as going there and clicking on, the NFT that you might like and checking out through your MetaMask wallet, your Magic Eden wallet, whatever it is. But again, credit cards now work. But there's a whole other side to it too, where, there's something. Are you familiar with the term whitelists?
I am, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should I explain just for,
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful for sure.
So, there's a whole other side of NFTs where people aren't usually buying them, or there's, on top of buying them, I'll say there's an extra step involved, and that's finding a good community to be a part of and participating, being a part of the community. And often community members get rewarded with, like, let's say a ticket, an RSVP to buy a mint or buy a whitelist, buy an NFT at the initial sale. So you're not buying it on secondary, you're buying it at the initial sale point. And that's a way to buy them that I don't think people really know about, that you get maybe great access to NFTs, maybe good ones, maybe a lot of free ones too, by just participating in the space. I can say it's a very, very giving space. A lot of freebies, a lot of just contests. It's a lot of fun. But again, you can go to the marketplaces, buy on secondary, or go find them yourself at, kind of the initial origin of the NFT and just get involved in the community.
In terms of that community, what do you think about tying the NFTs to real world benefits? And I'll give you an example. You may remember there was a company called Mercury And I'm a KU basketball fan. So they had an NFT project where you could buy, various KU basketball NFTs. And so I dabbled in that. And one of the things that they did was if you were an owner of certain NFTs, if you got lucky and pulled, a more rare version, they actually gave you game tickets. Or like I received a couple of KU basketball jerseys, a Joel Embiid jersey, those sorts of things, which I thought was interesting. Do you like that approach, or is that gimmicky? How does
Oh,
that tie into what you're seeing now?
so much more than like it. I love it. I think it's almost necessary. Like again, these are just JPEGs, but there's so much more you can do with it. The fact that again you got it stamped on chain, you know everything about it. You know where it lives. You know if it gets transferred to somebody else and where to give those benefits to. Well, the person who has it in their wallet. There needs to be a lot more of that, and luckily over the past few years that has ramped up. NBA Top Shot had started doing tickets to games for certain holders, whether you had to own sets or it was luck of the draw with what you were buying. We need a lot more of that. I'd say the more utility and freebies and experiences you can pack into an NFT, I mean, the better. That's I think when NFTs really fulfill that promise of what they could be. It looks a lot like what you described.
Besides Aussie's crypto bats, do you have any other favorite NFT collections or communities that you really enjoy?
I do. I mean, there's to be honest, as long as I've been in here, look, I love them all. I always say I'm rooting for everybody to win, and I genuinely am. There's probably just a handful that I love, and I think I always will. There's the Cyber Kongs, which is one of my like earliest passions. It's the community, it's the alpha, it's the friends. My brother ended up working there, which is extra cool. So there's just a closeness there, and people might know of them because well, they got a Wells notice in the in the fall, I think like November-ish. So very interesting times there, and to get to see that up close is again very very interesting. I really like what's going on over on Bitcoin with ordinals, right? NFTs now on Bitcoin. I think there's some very, very special stuff happening there that's very under the radar. Collections like, excuse me, Quantum Cats and Node Monks and Bitcoin Puppets and OMBs. These are four I always talk about that most people probably haven't heard of. And I feel pretty strongly that they will hear of them in the future. Again, these are some of the earliest collectibles on the Bitcoin blockchain, and I think they'll matter a good amount if just for the community, but I think just for the provenance, I think they'll matter a lot. And then maybe my favorite is something. Are you familiar with CryptoPunks?
I am.
Yeah, okay.
I don't own any, but I'm familiar with them.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story. Excuse me. I'm going to tell you a story, and you might end up owning your first CryptoPunk after this, which will sound a little crazy. Everybody, I think, is starting to know that story. CryptoPunks, they were these free-to-claim NFTs in 2017, and really they inspired a lot of what's going on right now. That initial story of when they were, out there for anybody to buy or claim for free, it actually isn't those assets that, are worth what, $150,000, $200,000 right now. It's not actually those ones that were the first ones being claimed. There was a collection minted, I guess, maybe let's just say a few days earlier that sold out after a few days. They were claimed for free. Those were CryptoPunks created by Larva Labs, but there was a bug in the contract. So when anybody tried to sell it, it would kick the money back to the purchaser and they would still have the NFT. So the seller was out of luck. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the NFTs. So Larva Labs made some copies of them and they distributed them to the people who minted it. And those are the ones that are now worth, quite a bit of money, and they're legendary. But I like to tell people there's the V1 punks, which are from Larva Labs. They are the original minted. You could look at them as like an error print or a beta, but they exist out there and they're significantly more affordable. And I have one because I think it's a little slice of history. So I don't think people know that story, and I put it out there whenever I can because it's pretty neat.
Real quick, because I do want to talk meme coins. You mentioned Wells notice, and obviously regulation is a big topic of conversation across the entire crypto ecosystem. Do you think NFTs should be regulated in any way, shape, or form? And before you answer that, I'll just tell you my position. You may have seen, I tweeted this out. This was several months ago. I took a picture of the trading card section in Target and basically said, hey, is the SEC going to regulate, this? Because to me, these are digital collectibles. So I think I know how you're going to answer this, but I do think it's important to touch on because, again, from the TradFi perspective, there is a little bit of debate around regulation here. So should NFTs be regulated? Again, we'll talk about meme coins separately in a minute, just NFTs.
So I'm probably 99.9% with you. And I think because there's so many types of NFTs and the purpose for creating them, I think it still does matter what's the intention of the NFT. If it's putting out an NFT collection for fun, and it's just the JPEG and it's just the PFP and no, I think they're collectibles. I think they are very, very a new type of collectible trading card. If it's fundraising, that's where I don't know. That's where I think it gets a little more unclear, and it could make sense that you have to regulate that to some degree. But I think a majority of NFTs are, purely collectibles. Even if they look a little different, yes, there's so much more money involved, and I know it makes people feel a kind of way. But it's just this acceleration of collectibles, bigger, faster, more valuable, whatever. Yeah, no. The answer is
Can
no.
you give an example of an NFT that was more a fundraising project? And if you don't want to name them specifically, because we don't want to pick on anybody here, that's fine. But maybe just an example of an NFT collection where there was that fundraising raising component. Because I agree, perhaps that does trip it into more of a security offering type status.
The tricky part is it might be a majority of them, and so I think it depends. Did projects come out and man, it's like saying it out loud. I don't know how strongly I feel about it, but like, did a project come out and say we're selling these for X amount of dollars so we can build this? Again, part of me wants to say that's a very new way of doing things, and maybe it is fundraising, and maybe it is okay to do, but I know that probably doesn't pass. I'm assuming the Howey test. I don't know, but I think that's where things get a little more gray. And if it's picking a project, I'd probably be picking most of the early ones. I think a lot of them did do that. Yeah, it's so tricky. Even in this space, there's just, I don't think anybody is set on one thing or another. We just know there's something very new, and we've been asking for that guidance and that framework so people knew what they can and cannot do. And until now, it just hadn't been there.
All right, let's hold that thought on regulation. I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but let's get into meme coins just a little bit here. And I guess to start, do you view meme coins similar to NFTs in terms of that community aspect that you were discussing earlier? Is it a very similar dynamic?
Very, very similar. It's very much the same people, the same maybe motives, but the same spirit of it. It is collecting. It's very much the same kind of audience. What's interesting is you now have meme coins that are separately minting an NFT collection. Is just something you can wear to fly their banner. And we've always had now NFT projects releasing their own meme coin for the flip side to get access to liquidity and just kind of maybe reach a larger audience. But again, I think it's very much the same audience.
Do you think the vast majority of people who are buying meme coins are aware that they could theoretically lose everything, have the rug pulled out from underneath them? Or do you think people really believe they can't lose all their money here? And the reason I ask that is, and we can talk specifically about the Trump meme coin if you'd like, but there seemed to be this narrative out there that, Trump is just out grifting people in that they have no idea that they're buying this thing that, they have no idea it could just go to zero. And I kind of pushed back on that and said, look, somebody who was buying that Trump meme coin in the first 48 hours, they already had to have some Solana. They had to know how to move it over to a wallet, then, buy a meme coin. This wasn't, grandma and grandpa sitting on their couch buying this. Now, to what you were saying earlier with the NFTs, I think you could go on to the website and just buy via credit card. But even then, you still had to have some technical know-how. But just taking a step back, do you think the majority of people transacting in meme coins know that these things could go to zero? Do you think there's this real illusion that this is more of an investment?
The way you said it's actually pretty great. I'm going to borrow that. No, the people who are already here that would have been buying it are very, very familiar with meme coins and how it works and what's the potential and what the risk is. Look, the only way that somebody is buying a meme coin and doesn't realize it can go to zero is if they stumble their way somehow to some deep, dark decks, that I know they wouldn't have heard of, or find their way to pump fun. Again, I don't know how some, person who's not in crypto would find their way there. And yes, most of those are going to go to zero, but the people who are new to crypto are never going to find that till they put some serious time in this space. So great point that people who are buying that, I can't imagine a single person does not realize the risk that comes with it.
I can't either. But again, I just saw this narrative, especially on the TradFi side, that, again, put Trump aside, it could be anybody who launches a meme coin, that they're just out grifting people. We saw Hawk Tua and all. That's kind of what you're going to get. The model here. You're going to have some sort of influencer. They're going to tweet out, that they've launched a coin or they're affiliated with some project. You're going to see the coin run up in value, and then the rug's going to get pulled. Like we see this over and over again. And I think people who are in the trenches, you can tell us, because you're there more than a lot of people, you kind of know how this is going to go. Now, that's not to say there aren't some meme coins out there where maybe they are attempting to build some longer term value, but in general, there's a reason it's called pump.fun, right? This is fun. This is people that are betting. It is a little bit of a casino here. So, in my opinion, it should be buyer beware, but there is a lot of discussion around regulation here. So I guess let's just go down that path, which we started with NFTs. Do you think meme coins should be regulated in any fashion? Are these different than NFTs? You said they were similar in terms of the community aspect, but these do seem a little bit different in the way they're viewed. What do you think around regulation here?
Yeah, I wonder if it's only different because it is even more extreme than NFTs in a way. Again, that saying faster, bigger. They move more violently, and I think they grab more attention maybe because of that. No, I don't think they should be regulated, or I should say every bit as much as NFTs, and maybe it depends on the purpose. A majority of them, no. These things on Pump Fund that are being launched literally for fun. It's just for fun. Think of them also as collectibles, where there happens to be a whole bunch of them. Usually, let's say a billion supply. It's a lot of little collectibles. But I think everybody looks at them purely as that. I think there's no expectation with these things. It's like if something happens, if these end up being worth some money, awesome. But I'll tell you personally, if I ever go buy a meme coin and it's very rare, I consider anything that I put into it gone instantly. I just assume
Right.
that. It is a game. I'm playing a game. And often that thing just sits in my wallet forever because at that point, it is a collectible. For me, it's a little memento of a little time I spent in the space. And I think most people are probably thinking about this the same way. So regulations or regulating meme coins, I don't think so.
Do you see any longer term value in this space? Or are there things that can happen in the meme coin ecosystem that are constructive and provide value? Or is it really just, again, a speculative casino?
It is that. Parts of it will always be that. But I've always been a fan of tokenizing everything, really tokenize everything and then see what you can do with it. I think it's really interesting that we've figured out a way to tokenize attention and then monetize it. And I think that's worth something. Maybe what it's worth is different to different people, but we did find a way through these tokens to actually, again, monetize it. And then, again, from there, see what you can actually do with it, build with it, be constructive. If not, that's on you. But I think it just unlocks a new kind of potential that we just haven't realized yet, maybe haven't thought of yet. But I like it. In fact, Donald Trump and him having a token is one of the things that it really helped unlock crypto for me. And this is years ago before it ever existed. It was going through this thought process of, okay, NFTs are starting to make sense, I guess. And then I was like, well, what if a celebrity made an NFT or a crypto? What would that look like? I'm like, well, I know there'd be a lot of people who collect it because it's Donald Trump. And if you had a token, I know that he could probably sell things on his website for his currency, and he could probably trade it with his family and do favors for people with it. And he could probably use it as a currency between his friends. And something about that clicked. I think because Trump is so big, I understood there could be a demand for that token just because of him. But then that leads to then what can you do with the utility of that thing that now has some value? And it all unlocked. So Trump actually putting out a meme coin, I think, is like a full circle moment for me. In my understanding of the space. But ultimately it is, I think you should have a meme coin. I think I should have a meme. I really do think everybody should. Me and my family, maybe I pay my kids allowance with it. We set up our own little liquidity pool, and that's just something for them to learn this stuff. And then maybe one day their friends do the same in their family, and they end up, trading with each other. I just think everybody should, and then we see where it all goes.
Yeah, I like how you frame that. I mean, it's like a currency for attention, or represents, the value of attention. And that's exactly, I think, what Trump did. It's remarkable to see the market cap on that coin, especially when it first launched. But I think that's a perfect example. Then it's that community feel. I think from his perspective, if you can bring people into that community, you have their attention. And then whether that's cross-selling them on other things, or potentially just having an audience with which to share information with, you have a captive audience, you have a captive community. And that's really what the value is. It's not that you're investing in any one thing. It's that they have that captive community, and maybe there's value to the end user around that, because let's say you're a fan of Trump, or whatever the case may be. I hit on this, but in terms of actually buying a meme coin, do you want to talk about that process? I pretty much gave it away earlier, but again, just for the novice investor, how do you actually buy a meme coin?
Sure. Yeah, I guess similar to NFTs, a few different ways, right? You can go at this point, you can go on Binance and Coinbase, and they are more and more starting to list meme coins, which is a lot of fun. And I think a big headache for them at Coinbase, like having to be very careful about what they list and what's the criteria. I know they're it's pretty challenging for them, but of course you can do that there. There's exchanges, there's dexes like Jupiter, and there's Photon. Pump Fun is like the latest, kind of the hottest thing out there, I think, right now for just anybody being able to launch one at any point. I mean, it's literally a couple clicks and boom, you have a meme coin and a whole craze. You could say a lot of this current run is being fueled by that platform specifically. That is the Let's just say that is the platform you need to be the most careful on. You just do. That's where you're probably going to see a majority of those rugs and sometimes even things a little more malicious. So just be very careful if anybody does decide to go check that out because of hearing that here. But there's a lot of places you can go trade those meme coins. Maybe if you're new, stick to the exchanges though, the Coinbases.
You mentioned a few clicks to create a meme coin. Is it that easy?
It's that easy.
If you said everybody should have their own meme coin, they can go a few clicks and boom, it's out there?
It's probably about 15 seconds to launch a token, and when you do it, you'll actually think to yourself, is that really that dangerous? I literally uploaded a picture, typed a sentence or two, and clicked launch, and you have a meme coin. And it doesn't have to be worth anything. It doesn't matter if the market cap is $1, 1 penny, $1 million. It's still this asset that's sitting in your wallet, and you do whatever you want with it. Just send it to people for free. You don't have to think about it in monetary terms. You don't have to.
Going back to the regulatory side, you mentioned Coinbase and Binance, some of these platforms that have listing standards for certain tokens, which I get, and that makes sense. But, and not to debate you, but if I try to square that with your thought that maybe everybody should have a meme coin, do you think those platforms should have any listing standards? Or again, is it buyer beware? Or is it concern that if you do have a novice out there who's buying, say, Bitcoin and Ether and Sol, that maybe they would view a meme coin or a particular meme coin in the same fashion? I'd just love to have you expand on that a little bit.
Yeah. It's tricky because I do think people who are going to buy, let's say somebody who's buying a meme coin on an exchange like a Coinbase, they're probably more experienced with meme coins because of the things like Doge and Sheeb and things that have been around many, many years that just they probably will never go to zero. And if they have those in mind when they go buy this new meme coin, and let's say Coinbase was just listing everything, those specific people who are not used to this space, they just aren't as knowledgeable, they might not realize they truly can go to zero. They might not, I should say. I do think this is a new era of personal responsibility, and you might have to get hurt a little bit to actually understand this. And everybody has been, and I think it's on us to kind of adapt and learn. That said, I know Coinbase, again, they're going through this really, I think it's a difficult time or process to figure out what to list, and they're trying to be safe and careful. But Brian Armstrong did come out and say we need to move to a different type of standard or criteria, which is list everything and blacklist the ones that are scams or the bad intentions or malicious. And that makes a lot more sense because you're never going to stop meme coins. I don't think you're ever going to be able to police them. And again, a majority of them, probably, again, 99.9%, I don't think you need to. So put them all out there, let people decide. And again, the ones that we know are not kosher, you blacklist those. I think that makes a lot of sense.
But to your last point, I mean, what would you consider to be a scam or a type of meme coin that should be blacklisted? Because if we just assume that anybody can launch a meme coin, theoretically these could go to zero, I would assume, the vast majority of people who are launching a meme coin probably hope to make some sort of profit off of it. I would guess some people are probably doing it just for fun. I get that, but there is probably some sort of financial incentive there. So what, in your opinion, would constitute a scam? Because if I'm out on X and I see somebody, you see this all the time, somebody launches a token, everybody starts pumping it. Is that a scam? I mean, is there malicious intent behind that? I'm just wondering where that line is. I know there's no right or wrong answer here, but how do you think about that?
You're absolutely right. It's one of those things, I think, if you can, and I do think this is impossible for the most part, but if you can find that intent and you can find certain tokens that we call these bundled, where there's a huge chunk of the supply sitting in a single wallet that you can tell, maybe based on this person's activity too, their history, and you usually can find that, but they have a track record and the intention to go dump this token, 99% of them, as soon as people start buying. Maybe those, if you can find a way to filter these things, maybe it's better to not list those things, maybe. But there's also a newer thing happening too, where there's tokens that are showing up that in their listings, and this wouldn't be on Coinbase or anything yet, but let's say Pump Fun, in their listings where they can put their socials, their different accounts that they want people to follow, to go get more information. It's actually leading to malicious downloads, and that's a big problem. And maybe that's the number one thing people would need to be careful of is or maybe that we could police somehow is eliminating those things that are, malicious to the degree that you're downloading a virus, you're getting your crypto drained because you interact. That is new. That's not something that's very prevalent out there, but something I'm catching wind of just this past week.
Just a few minutes left before I let you go. Do you have any favorite meme coins? And by the way, for listeners, we're not here to pump anything. As always, do your own research. I don't have a coin. You're not here pumping anything, but any favorite meme coins out there?
Yeah, let me think of a few. And again, I own very, very few. In fact, like one that I like a lot, I own none of. It's called SPX 6900, which is a meme on. It actually speaks to TradFi. It does. It's all about flipping the stock market is their meme, right? And so it's designed to be appealing to TradFi. I think the meme is hilarious. When I first saw that one, I actually went and looked for like a light paper. I actually thought they might have a light paper because they were talking technical and about finance. I'm like, this is pretty interesting. Sounds like a sophisticated meme coin, and it's pure meme. They got me. I love that one. Pengu. Pudgy Penguins put out a token, and I think it's potentially very special. I just think it represents so much. It's of course a meme, right? From the biggest native Web3 IP, the Pudgy Penguins. It just feels like something special. So I like that one a lot. Those are probably my top two right there. Yeah, I think that's probably my solid tiny list, but I like those guys.
Well, Yehudah, this has been such a blast. We're definitely gonna have to do this again. I appreciate you coming on. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, hey, thank you. I learned a ton from you. I have really no experience out in traditional markets, but because of you, I've actually been learning quite a bit about it. So we're maybe speaking to each other's audiences a bit, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, let's do it again.
We have a good crossover here. That was Yehudah Petscher, NFT strategist and Web3 analyst at CryptoSlam and host of both Chain Reactor and Inside ETFs. Hope everyone enjoyed this episode of Crypto Prime. Please leave a review or give us a like wherever you're listening or watching. That obviously helps other people find the show. So certainly appreciate that. And I'll see you again next week.
Crypto Prime is hosted by Nate Geraci, president of OTR Media LLC. Nate is also president of the investment advisory firm The ETF Store. While OTR Media LLC and the ETF Store are related by common ownership, they are separate and distinct entities, and anything discussed on this program should not be construed as an official statement by the ETF Store. This program is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice. Investing in crypto assets involves substantial risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any past performance figures discussed are not necessarily indicative of future results. Visit CryptoPrimePodcast.com for more information.